It's time now for Media Watch. James Creedon is here. We're looking at the story regarding Amanda Knox, of course, the woman who was acquitted yesterday by an appeal court in Italy of any role in the murder of 21-year-old Meredith Kercher back in 2007 in Perugia. Tell us about the reaction online to this.
Well, it's an interesting one. It reminds me a little bit of the Dominique Strauss-Kahn case, where you see two countries sort of pitted against each other, the US versus Italy. There's another case in France called the Florence Cassez case, where she's held in Mexico, and a lot of people in France think she's innocent, and in Mexico they say she was guilty of helping out in drug dealing and all sorts of stuff. So it's one of these cases that pits two countries against each other.
So the US reaction really has been very much for Amanda Knox all along,
right,
isn't it? Saying that, you know, she's a poor American girl who's been the victim of an
Italian justice system. And what we're seeing now is basically in the US media, people saying that she was scapegoated initially. If we have a look online, the Los Angeles Times, the scapegoating of Amanda Knox, that's their take on it. The Guardian has had some interesting coverage on it too, all very anti the Italian justice system and the prosecutor Giuliano Mignini. Now, this guy, Douglas Preston, says that there was such a rush to judgment because it was basically to save the face of the prosecutor, the police, and the judiciary. Their reputations were relying on this case, so they perhaps didn't take into account some of the lack of evidence, basically, and they pursued it despite that lack of evidence, or the lack of, I suppose, clinical proof. And this guy, he is the prosecutor. You can there's a photo of him there, Giuliani Mignini. He is coming under fire from all sides. Also, another article in The Guardian about this today, they are critical of the Italian media for not investigating the person of Rudy Gueda enough. Now, Rudy Gueda is the guy who is actually in jail for this crime. It's been pretty much confirmed that he was one of the murderers. And she says in this article in The Guardian that Amanda Knox became the star of this whole trial, the star of horrid murder theory, and not enough effort was made by the media and the Italian justice system to focus on this character of Rudy Gueda.
Because the initial trial found that Rudy Gued from Ivory Coast had actually was the prime mover in killing poor Meredith Kercher, because let's face it, at the end of the day, there's someone who's been killed here in a family that's lost their daughter. Knox and her boyfriend Solicito were supposedly drug influenced and helped hold her down. That's what the trial concluded. But of course, the DNA evidence, of course, didn't stack up. It seemed not to stack up in some way.
Right.
But of course, stories change, versions change. I mean, there are all sorts of things that sow a lot of doubt in people's mind, don't they? Because the prosecution's still saying they're going to appeal against this decision.
And I suppose that element of intrigue is one thing that explains why this case just got such a massive degree of international interest.
Twice, didn't she? You know, these kind of things happen.
And there are a lot of unanswered questions, and that's what a lot of the media coverage is focusing on today. Now, one other element that's interesting is how people are saying she could make an awful lot of money out of this. Call her Fort Knox. This was a Fox News headline. Amanda's story could net her tens of billions of dollars. That was one of the criticisms, actually, in the Italian media. They're saying she is now going to become a star back in her home country, despite the fact that there are still a lot of grey zones. Now, one other point that should be brought up, in the media frenzy and flurry to get the information up online, because this was the biggest story really on most of the rolling news channels yesterday, but there was such an effort to get the result out fast that the Huffington Post UK, the UK version of the Huffington Post here, points out that a lot of media got it wrong. Yep. Because what seems to have happened is reporters were put under pressure to have two versions of the story ready. They then tweak those the version that was correct depending on the actual outcome, and that's what would go up on the website, so it'll be referenced on Google News and you get loads of hits on your website. And unfortunately, some media got that wrong and they put out the wrong version.
I listened to the actual announcement, and it seemed at one stage that Amanda Knox thought that she had been recondemned to serve the 24-year sentence.
So there was some confusion in the way it was announced as well.
There was confusion as well, but there you go. So you can understand why mistakes happen. Exactly. James, thank you very much indeed. That was James Creedon with Media Watch. Stay with us, we've got more news to come, including our sports bulletin looking at the problems facing both France and England ahead of that crucial Rugby World Cup game this weekend. Problems off the field are causing the difficulties, it seems. And in culture, we've got, among other things, a Toy Story just off the Champs-Élysées. It's quite good fun. Barbie foot, apparently. Stay with us.